Hi friends, and welcome back into the channel. Thank you guys so much for being here. I am playing in my Malibu Beach sparkle bag, and look at the selection of beads I have. I thought of this really cool idea to cluster the starfish in the center of this triple strand bracelet. So we're going to have some fun working with different shapes of beads and clustering them on a triple strand today. So I hope you guys will enjoy. Let's get right to it. Is varied. I not only have different shapes and sizes, we have a lot of different colors going on here, but boy, it's gonna blend beautifully. So my idea to share this jewelry project with you guys was working with different shapes as a cluster focal and how to accomplish that on a multi-strand design. So notice the selection of beads I have varies from rounds and rondelles to some shell-shaped and some twisted ovals here. I also have the starfish, and then I have the teeny tot rondelles, right? So I want you to notice what is going on here on this triple strand out of the gate. So notice where my loops are, okay? Every strand is a different size on this side. We're now gonna create my cluster. I'm gonna show you a fun way to do this. And then on the other side of this bracelet, these strands will also vary. They will not be the same as they were on this side. In other words, I will not be duplicating this exact length over here, and you're gonna see why in just a second. So I will briefly run you through materials. Of course, you can use any beads, my friends. However, when doing something like this, where you have some rather large, chunky, different shaped beads, so rather not rounds, you're gonna want to have some teeny tots, right? Some 3 or 4 millimeters and or some seed beads, right? Because we do need that right at the edges. The other things I'm using is some bead stringing wire. Use any bead stringing wire of your choice. I do have 3 strands. I am using a 49 strand today. I will be using the magical crimper, so I have some 2x2 crimp tubes. I also have some oval jump rings. These are 5 millimeter oval jump rings. And then I have a really pretty toggle clasp. It has some pretty texture on it. And I'm gonna use a couple of head pins for some dangles. Now, to get started, what I did was, if you want to do something similar, I used on this outer strand, I used 12 of the 4 millimeter papaya whip with a rondelle in between, which is this strand right here, this graduated strand, okay? And then I ended this strand with 2 rondelles. In the middle strand, I started it with a rondelle. I did 6 of those twisted ovals. I did 2 of our check seashells and then 1 rondelle. And then on this side over here, I did 15 of those papaya whip 4 millimeter glass. And then I did a rondelle in between with 2 on the end. Now what we're gonna do is we are going to grab 2 of these strands, okay? And this will make sense why these are all a different length now. I'm gonna take these outer 2 strands, okay? And I am going to put my first starfish through both of these strands. Okay, and there we go. Okay, and I'm gonna pull those up, okay? And now what I'm going to do is I am going to grab this outer strand, okay? And the inner strand. Now to determine, let me get you guys pulled in. To determine which strand is my inner strand, because sometimes our wires will cross over, just grab your wire and push it, right? So I can tell that this one is this one. I don't want that wire, and he belongs over there. I want this middle strand, right? So it's this one. So I'm now gonna take my outer 3rd strand here with that middle strand. I'm gonna marry those tails up, and then I'm gonna put my porcelain starfish through those 2 strands, okay? And now I'm going to do what I started with. So I'm gonna take the middle strand, which is this one, I believe, and then this outer strand. So I'm just gonna pull it to see which one it is. So it's this one. And let me make sure that was this one. And now I'm gonna grab those two on this side again, these two strands, put them together, and then slip both of these strands through the starfish. I'm gonna stop right here and show you the method to the madness, and hopefully it makes good sense to you guys at this point. Okay, so now look at what we have. Okay, so I'm gonna now take and I'm gonna pull all three of my wires up. Okay, and so now here is what we have. Okay, do you see what I mean, how fun this is, you guys? Look how fun that cluster is, right? This wire is actually gonna wind up going underneath, right? So it'll lay outside underneath, okay? And this is how I played around with my design to determine the length of these three strands. I just kept feeding on beads and then put two strands through that first starfish and then two strands through this one, and realized, for example, this outer strand landed here and I needed just a few more beads because this strand needed to be a whole lot longer, right, to come up here. So just play around with your fun, larger shaped beads and clustering and making some beautiful, unique looking beachy jewelry. So that is what I have. Now, you would obviously think right here, well, why don't you just put some rondelles in between, right, so that they'll lay nicer? Well, because I don't want to. Because you don't have to, because we can play and we can have fun with our design. So the most important thing that I was concerned about was that these are relatively the same size over here. Now notice they're off a little bit, and that is okay. I have a jump ring to deal with that, okay? So I am now going to continue my quest on the other side of this bracelet now that I have these three strands through all three of these center starfish. So what I need to do is get all the strands in the correct direction. So this one's the right side, this one is my middle, and this one should be the end. Yes, it is. So that is what I have, right? And so now what I'm gonna do is go ahead and start feeding my beads on using, let me get my pliers up to hold these strands down. So I'm now going to repeat these patterns on the same strands. So now I know that this one is this one, right? So I'm gonna repeat this pattern over here, but how many beads, we shall see. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with the little teeny tots. And also notice what I did here, guys, was this graduated strand. I've got the green on this side. I'm gonna be doing the blue on the other side. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do one blue, and then I'm gonna put on 3 of my papaya whip. And then I'm gonna space that in between with a rondelle. And then we'll do that again. This is gonna be a little longer of a tutorial. I hope you guys don't mind. This was more of kind of a visual, so I have to talk a little more. I hope it makes sense and you guys enjoy just really playing around. Also using some really pretty colored beading wire, right? So, I mean, we cannot go wrong with this whole color palette and some beautiful bead stringing wire. An emerald green would have been pretty, or even like a bronzite color would have been pretty as well. I just chose this bone color. You do want a soft, flexible wire. This is a 49 strand. I'm gonna put a bead stopper on and end that right there to determine my sizing. So I'm just gonna stop right there. If I need to add more beads, I will. Now I'm gonna go to the center strand, right? And so that is where the seashells and my little twisted rectangles are. So again, I am gonna start with a rondelle. And then I'm gonna put my little beautiful check seashells on. Now what I did was put them like this, so where they face each other like that. How cute is that, right? Too cute. And then I put on the twisted rectangles. These are so darling. I love these for bracelets because they're so soft on the wrist. So I'll feed 6 of these on. And then I am gonna do the same thing, end that with a teeny tot rondelle here. And then we'll leave that guy alone. And now this strand over here. Now this is where I'm going to have to get some smaller beads, right? So that's where I'm probably gonna do like a whole run right here, because this bead stringing wire, notice how it's gonna lay underneath this particular starfish, right? So I'm gonna wanna have some teeny tots, and I don't want them, you know, to be too bulky. So I really need to probably build up quite a few there. So I'm gonna put quite a few of these teeny tots on to get started. So let's start with, there's 3. And so see, when they tuck under, do you see what happens, guys? See how that starfish is kind of gonna lean a little bit, and that is fine, because when we're wearing it on the wrist, it's gonna look really cool. So I've got that many. I think I'm gonna put one more. Put one more little teeny tot here. And then I'm gonna go ahead and start with those 4mm papaya whip again. So I'll do those with some color blocking in runs of 3, with a rondelle in between, just exactly like I did over here. Okay friends, I have finished stringing up the right side of my bracelet, and as you can tell, this is what we have. And again, I didn't necessarily have the exact same count on these end strands on the right as I do on the left. That's okay. The thing that is exactly the same though is the center strand. There's exactly the same beads on the left and the right side of that center strand. And the reason for that is our cluster, right? This is just a vibe, guys. This is just a vibe. This is really like designing on the fly, right? And just having fun designing. So now what I'm really concerned about more than anything is just paying attention to where I'm ending here, such as I did over here, to get as close as I can, right, to my length with my beads. And I'll make up the rest with jump rings, right? So I'm not, don't worry about, like you can see I'm off a little here. We won't worry about that until the end. So now I'm ready to start crimping. So I'm gonna grab 2 strands that I'm not working with, and I'm gonna get a bead stopper so I don't lose my work. And I'm gonna grab a crimp tube and my crimper, and then I am going to get this put into somewhat of the position that I'm pretty sure I want it. So notice here what I've done, friends. This strand here is over the top of that peachy colored starfish, right? And that's just what I want. So that's that strand, right? And then I need to pull on it to see which strand is that so I can crimp it off. Well, it's this one. So this strand is probably this end one over here. So it is. Okay, so I'm gonna just, kind of play around with it and get it looking the way I want. It'll move around a little bit, but I kind of wanted that little bump, like this one is under, I want this one to be like over, right? So that this strand goes over the side and then under this side. So I'll go ahead and I'm gonna grab a crimp, and we're just gonna make little tiny loops on the end of our bracelet. So I'm gonna get that wrapped back around and pull that in. I'm gonna grab my crimper, and I do want to make some pretty small loops. As I said, I intend to make the rest up with jump rings. So that is pretty good, but I do wanna make sure that I have bend in movement. So I'm gonna kind of go like that. I don't want it to be too sloppy here in the center. It looks good to me. And then I'm gonna go ahead and crimp this off. So I'll go round and round, and we'll shape that like a round bead. And I am gonna make some dangles with those ball end head pins out of some of the additional beads that were in this collection. So let's trim the excess there. And now we need to crimp the next strand. So let me grab this off the bead stopper, keep it on the strand I'm not working with, and now I'm in the center strand, right? And again, this is how I want it. Notice how it's kind of like dipping over to the right. Okay, and so you do, I'm gonna pull, make sure everything is kind of tugged down. I'm gonna get my crimp tube on here and get that put around, but I'm gonna put a little bend in my bracelet before I commit to my crimping. Right, make sure my wires are not crossed here. By the way, you guys, this is making me very happy right now. This is really one of the most like intricate design on the flies I've done in a while. This is making me very happy. So there we go. And let's go ahead. I got a bead stopper there. Okay, great. And let me just make sure when I go ahead and put it on, we're gonna be good. And we are. Okay. So we've got that, and let me get this kind of turned around. Also, I'm gonna make sure my little seashells, they're laying the way that I want them to lay. Once I crimp, they're not gonna move very much. So there we go. Make sure my loop is pretty small. And we'll crimp off my final strand here. Let's get a crimp on there. And we'll get our loop in before we get this tidied up. Let's get that pushed on down. Okay, and again, I'm kind of just pulling it, and I just love the way that looks. But this one, I was really wanting you to be under you. Now, he might flip-flop around on my wrist, and if that's what he wants to do, I'm actually okay with that. Maybe he wants to be like this. So, guys, just notice I'm kind of talking out loud, but really I'm talking to my bracelet. You guys are along for the ride. I'm really letting my beads boss me around in this particular design to land where they want to land. I don't want to force it, in other words, right? Like I was really just talking to you guys, right, that I wanted this to be over and under, but now that I've crimped the other two strands off, he's really not wanting to go under without me forcing him under, right? And then notice what's happening to my starfish. So I will let that be the boss of me for this moment in time. And I'll go ahead and just let it land right over the top because that looks just as beautiful. And we'll make sure that that's all pulled down, and I'll put a little bend in there. Make sure all my beads have some movement and room. And we'll get that pulled down to make as small of a little loopy loop. And then I'm gonna crimp this last strand off. And let's get all of our hardware and our dangles on. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my hardware. So I have my oval jump rings, and I will see as I put this together now, put my hardware on, where we need to make up any length like we talked about. Looks like these two strands, I might need an additional jump ring. That's where these ovals are gonna come in very handy today. So let's go ahead and start on the right side. It looks like these are fairly close enough that I think that we're gonna be okay with just the one jump ring. So I am gonna make sure that I'm feeding my bracelets on in the order that they are. So that's the right side outer. Now here is the middle. And then we will grab the outer strand. And let's get that closed up. And then we are going to grab another jump ring. But before I do that, here's how you can tell if you need to make up some length with your jump rings. Literally put a jump ring on like I did and kind of curve it around, and you'll be able to tell and also feel if you need another jump ring on one of your strands. This side happens to be fine. So I'm just going to add one more jump ring, and we'll put a clasp on this side. So we'll go and put this now right over on that other jump ring. And then I'll grab the bar portion of my toggle. We'll get that on there. And close that up. And so now that side is a nice, beautiful finish. And now we'll go over on this side. Now this side, again, notice I have a little bit of some space to make up. So that's just fine and dandy. That's where all of our wonderful findings come in, my friends. So in this case, I'm going to grab again in the order that they are. I'm going to put them on in the order that they need to be. So making sure the outside goes on the outside and the middle goes in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and put a jump ring on those two. Let's get that closed up. And now let's go ahead and see that, yeah. Now this second jump ring is probably gonna do the trick. So I'm gonna put this last jump ring on the jump ring I just added on those bracelets, right? And now I am going to put this third strand on there. And that should be good. Now if we need to add more length, we shall see. So how do we tell? Well, we just we play. We play with it, my friends. So there's that side, right? And this is how that end looks. Let me show you. This is where that last jump ring is. Let me grab it and so you guys can see that. So that's where that last jump ring is, right? So that's how that looks, and to me, it does not look too sloppy. It looks good enough, right? I don't think I need another jump ring. I think it would be too sloppy if I added a second one. So we're just gonna leave well enough alone. And then I'll go ahead and let's grab one last final oval for our toggle portion of our clasp, and our dangles are next. So we'll go ahead, let's add our toggle. And again, we are gonna add that to that last jump ring. Right, so that last jump ring right there is where I'm gonna put my toggle. Let's get that closed up. There we go. And voila. Look at that beautiful professional finish. Now, of course, I have a ball and head pin, and I did grab another one of my check shells. I mean, you guys, look at that. Look at that one. Isn't that beautiful? And then one of the check Hawaiian flowers. So we'll just do a couple of dangles because we have to. The question is, which way does my seashell go? Does it go this way? I mean, this is like almost the most important part of design. I think so. I think we'll go like that. I'm gonna go ahead, we'll put a little bend in our wire right here. And I do have some thick gauge jump rings today, or head pins, friends, so I'm just gonna do some simple loops. You could also wire wrap them if you want. And let's grab our round nose pliers. And we're gonna roll in a simple loop here. And let me kick that back to center that up. And let's open these up and decide where our beautiful dangles are gonna go. I think we're gonna open these up. I mean, they could absolutely go anywhere. We could put them here. Like we could put a dangle here. You guys feeling me? With how fun it is to just design on the fly. Love it. Let's go ahead and do over here. And I'm going to put this on the jump ring that's attached to my toggle, not to my bracelets. So we'll use the center jump ring there. That bridges the gap. And let's get that turned in. And nice and close. Work hard in that a little bit. And we'll grab our second one. Little Hawaiian flower. Try to straighten it a little bit. Okay. And put that on there as well. And I think I'm gonna hang that from the seashell itself. What a gorgeous bracelet. Love it. I hope you guys enjoyed today's very long tutorial and beading inspiration, and you are not detoured from working with different shapes and sizes of beads in your design. The world is our oyster, my loves. The world is our oyster, and so that's what we have. So let me show you now what we have. So this is what our bracelet looks like. Let me go ahead and get my closure like that, and there we go. And that's what we have. What a stunning bracelet. Stunning. I love this. It's so unique and so different. This is what that looks like right on the top. Can you guys tell what's happening there, right? So let me put on the wrist and show you. I'll put it on this side. So when I'm wearing it, do you notice how you have starfish underneath and then one on top, and how that strand is traveling just beautifully? And let's go ahead and get this closed up. And there we go. Let me zoom you guys out. I don't know why I had you guys so close. So sorry about that, guys. So that's what that looks like. Isn't this just everything? I mean, I love, love, love. This is so beachy. This is so beachy, so gorgeous. I just love it. And by the way, I did finish gluing my knots. If you guys were with me and saw me make this gorgeous bracelet with the Hishi flower amazonite and that gorgeous sand dollar, I did glue my knots, and I am loving this in this hot weather. So I hope you guys, like I said, enjoy, and you have an awesome rest of your day, and we will see you in the next video, my friends. Until then, keep sparkling and be blessed.